Season 1, Episode 7, Loud, Fast, and Keep Going.
Welcome to Starting Now, a Barry podcast, presented by Cinemasins.
Hello, everybody. This is the Starting Now, the Barry podcast, with Chris Atkinson and Barrett Scher.
Hello!
And Mike Hester.
Hey, everybody.
And this is the penultimate episode of Season 1. We open up with the perspective of the Bolivians from the end of the previous episode. And with John Denver's On a Jet Plane, whatever that song's called.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the plane comes in, and this is hilarious how this is set up. The plane comes down, it lands, and then there's like three gunmen just sitting there, and they see, here comes Pantera.
Oh yeah.
And then they just go over and shoot it, and the truck tumbles and blah, blah, blah. And then our Bolivian leader, played by Michael Irby.
Well, I want to say I love that they go back a couple of minutes on this, and so you get this completely different scene because you are dying after the end of episode 6. What's going to happen? You don't know what's going to happen. You figure Barry's alive, but who else is going to be alive? And then completely different, like you said, with the Pantera. And I'm really happy they didn't make us wait for the payoff, which I was worried they were going to do. We do that with shows a lot, where they're like, "There's this cliffhanger, and we'll tell you in like 20 minutes."
Well, yeah, they go to Sally rehearsing her Macbeth.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, screw you guys. That's not what I want. But they they come into that, and they had the Bolivians. The Bolivians fired this guy, and you just see for them that it was just like, oh, there's some guys, we shoot
not
them.
A momentous occasion.
Not momentous at all.
They get this done, and Cristobal Cifuentes, who is the Bolivian leader guy, played by Michael Irby, who, by the way, was in The Last Castle.
Really?
So I have seen this man up close.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember Michael Irby back then.
Do you remember, like off the top of your head, what else he's been in?
No,
Okay.
but I've seen him a bunch. He's a character actor. He's been in a ton of things. Anyway, he comes out of the plane. He doesn't even know what's happened. He hasn't even seen it. He's like, I've only been here 2 minutes. You've already shot somebody. And, this is the character that he is. He is a nice guy who very quite literally is by the book. And we're going to get to that because, so he calls up Goran. And he's like, I saw some guys out here. I came here to because I heard that you knocked over my stash house, and some guys came to kill me. And,
I'm a big fan of yours. All you had to do was ask. We could have gone in together. It's like,
and Goran turns to Noho Hank, and he's like, he's very nice. He goes, he's nice, and he's like, we have fucked up.
Yes. This is another instance of this show subverting complete expectations, because all you see is Bolivian drug lord getting off of a plane. You expect, this guy's going to be a badass.
Mm-hmm.
He's surrounded by gunmen who are clearly well trained and able to take out this SUV, right? And then he comes out and makes this call, and immediately you're like, this is not the guy that we were expecting at all. Similar to the Chechens, similar to everybody else on this show. It just continues that, he's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He basically informs Goran that even though it belies his nice nature, he's going to have to kill some of his guys now.
Right?
yeah.
But then he brings up that book, The Four Agreements.
Yeah.
And he's like, he goes into this whole thing about the book and everything, and it's hilarious, but it also explains his character a little bit, because he is by the book.
Yeah.
He's not mean, but everything that a mean guy would do, he's going to do, because it's what is done.
And that's why he says we have to go to war now, because that's you killed some of the guys. We have to go to war. It's a shame it had to be like that.
War. This is very bad for me.
But then he says, I just love he's talking. We have to kill Fuches.
And was it he explains the third rule, and Goran repeats it, and Noho Hank, of course, he's like, "Is that from Four Agreements?"
Yeah.
Oh, it's very good book. Very good book.
It's what this gave me shades of, especially the opening shots and all that stuff. Before we get into the humor and things like that, was Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because the cinematography itself, like the setting, the introduction of a new character, I think at this moment, like it triggered in my brain that this has already attained Breaking Bad levels of greatness to me. Obviously, you don't have the weight of the backstory coming around, but I think it's accelerated much faster than Breaking Bad ever did.
Yeah, it's getting to that level. The desert just has such a pull, and where you see that barren kind of landscape, and you immediately think of all the times when Walter White drove out into the middle of nowhere to cook meth or whatever. So, it definitely draws to that. And it makes it even more startling when Cristobal comes out.
Yeah,
and he is nothing like the drug guys from Breaking Bad.
In Breaking Bad, it was always constantly like, who is going to be the biggest psycho?
Exactly.
The show, and probably to its benefit, does not explain how Barry and Chris get out of the Jeep and hide, because it's total bullshit.
There's a lot of bullshit in this. How they survived the crash, how they are essentially uninjured.
Mm-hmm.
Like Barry's got a little bit of a limp, but that's about it. How Chris gets the gun and rescues that all the way over there. Why the kid doesn't radio that he's going to search for them in the first place.
Yeah.
All this stuff. I'm willing to forgive all of it, but that's a lot of yada.
And then a minute later, Chris has the gun and he's going to shoot this guy. And Barry is there just yelling like, Chris. Now, I know this other guy doesn't speak English, apparently.
Yeah.
But I think he would know what Chris means.
Yeah.
I don't think that's such a crazy foreign word that he wouldn't see the panic in him and not just start looking around. It's like, who the fuck is he talking to? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then allow him to get shot.
Yeah.
But again, I'm willing to forgive it because the story's good.
This is one of the only places in this season, I think, that there's a lot of yada going on, especially in that first 10, 15 minutes. Why did he land early relative to when they scoped it out? Because they did heavy reconnaissance on this beforehand, but everything is a means to an end.
Yeah. And this killing, I guess we're led to believe this is the first time Chris has ever killed anybody.
Yes.
Because he was in logistics or something like that.
Yeah, later on he is really, really freaked out by this. He has not been in the shit at all.
No. And we kind of got the hint of that when we saw him shooting with his family. And wasn't able to hit anything there.
And the fact that he's wearing flannel to this instead of like fucking flak jackets and all that.
Yeah. So this becomes a big moment here because Chris is a guy who he's never dealt with this before, and the guilt he's racked with guilt, so he's ready to just give up and just say, I did this and move on. And we'll get to that later. But there's a funny sort of interchange between Hank and Fuches because Hank believes that Barry's dead because they've said they said two Marines, two military guys, and everything. That's also leading to the fact that they're being recorded too. That's also coming up, but. Hank tells Fuches, and they start bonding over the fact that they both love Barry.
Yeah.
And there's that part there. We're sort of backtracking some more. Just before that phone call comes in, Goran is like putting out his best dishware and everything for that fucking cops. Yeah. And Noho Hank is like, he's like, should I go to the store and buy vodka?
Two babka?
But he's on the phone with Hank. He's like, I was out in the store the other day and I bought a babka. 2 babka? And yeah, they're just mourning over the fact that Barry is probably dead and everything.
I love at the end of that call when he's talking to him, and again, it's this by the book thing, which is why that we see with Cristobal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where at the end of it, he's like, "Oh, yeah, well, Fuchs says, we have to kill you." Just like matter of fact, just like we will find you and we will kill you wherever you are. And
By the way,
okay, oh shit.
This episode and the following episode that we'll talk about just reinforces my dislike of this character. And it's great because Stephen Root is playing him as such a scumbag. But there's that we've talked about before, like, is it Barry as his meal ticket or is it actual affection? What percentage that is? The more I watch this again, the more I think it's more of the percentage of he's his meal ticket. Because he has that moment here, we've seen it before, where he thinks Barry's dead. He's in the lobby of the hotel and he, brushes all the stuff off the table and starts, crying basically, right? To me, I don't know if I'm just reading into it, but I think it's less affection and more like, God damn it, he was making me a lot of money.
The first time I saw that, I thought he's really affected. He thinks his close friend, almost family, has died. But now, the more I think about it, the more, I think that is a bigger deal. I think that he has lost his meal ticket because he's not a killer. He's not somebody who can do this.
It's still a mix. It's still a mix. There's something in there, but I just see it more of like just the selfishness. And I get to a certain point in the next episode where I think this is made clear, but he's such a fucking scumbag, man.
I had the exact opposite reaction.
Oh, wow. Really?
You felt more this time that it was more affection?
I don't think he's going to bother talking with Noho Hank on the phone about Barry if that was the meal ticket thing.
Yeah, I mean, he does get into. It's
maybe
almost like
it could be one of those things where this is really funny. We'll put it in, despite what we really think about his character. But I totally disagree with that.
Interesting. It's almost like a Yondu Quill relationship, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I raised you from 5 years old or whatever. Obviously not with him, but raised him up, and now, even though I'm a father figure to him, we're in a business relationship, right? And that can create rocky.
I mean, I think at this point he has more than enough money too. I mean,
well,
you never have enough money, though. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a huge
he seems like
pile of money.
Yeah,
it is. But again, we don't know. I don't think even by the end of the season we don't know how much that is.
No,
right?
we don't. But he has a nice amount wrapped in there. But yeah, I don't think.
No, but it's interesting at least that it's vague enough to where we can have kind of different perspectives on this. Yeah. You can totally literally like this character and like his moral ambiguity. I kind of find myself despising him. But I think that's how he's supposed to be played in that middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
See, the next thing he after all of this, somehow after with Chris shooting him and all that, somehow he gets back to the theater.
He goes right back to
that exact theater. He is obsessed. He is so into this where he will just do whatever he needs to do to get back into the theater and to do his thing, and he runs in while Sally is on stage doing Macbeth, and he gets his line totally wrong. It's like fast and loud.
Well, they switch it up.
They tell him she tells him he's got a new line just before she goes out.
Yeah,
and these two episodes are where I really fall in love with Sarah Goldberg.
Yeah.
I think that the range of emotion she experiences all in one scene a lot of times is incredible.
Oh yeah.
How many times she comes out and she's like, "Oh, you look terrible," blah blah blah, and then she's like, "Well, I gave you another line," and then and then she's off, and she'll go through happy, sad, ambivalent, all these different things all at once in one scene. But yeah, he messes up the line, and it's the continuation of their breaking relationship, and she walks off. Of course, she's not nailing it either. That's the main the main issue. It doesn't have anything to do with him. It's just sort of an icing on the cake type of thing, So,
but it leads to this great. The scene with Gene is like, Barry, what was that? Talking to him about it. Are you on drugs? And that whole, are you on drugs? I had this thing where we did, what is it? He did some play was a Shakespeare play. It's supposed to be in 3 hours, and we got it in 37 minutes.
No, it's a Eugene O'Neill.
Yeah.
It's a long journey, long
day's journey into night.
Long day's journey into night, and he thinks that Barry's on drugs, and he's like, recovery is a very important part of an actor's lifespan or whatever, and he's like, I'm not on drugs. He's like, well, that's bad for you. Because if you're not on drugs, Barry, and you have this one line,
he even points out, he's like, the blood in the hair, that's a nice
I
know.
But yes, he says they did this Eugene O'Neill. It's supposed to be 3 hours. We got it done in 37 minutes. We thought we were great, but apparently we were unintelligible.
And it's again Gene seeing all of Barry through his own lens. He's acting crazy, he must be on drugs. He's getting to some place this isn't real. This is him acting. You know, he sees the whole world through the lens of acting and doesn't. It doesn't even occur to him that something else is going on with Barry.
And I guess also during just before I think we touched on it, but just before Barry goes out and flubs his line, he's trying to talk Chris down off the ledge, essentially. Right. And so he knows now that he's going to have to meet up with him and say, hey, what's going on, man? Can I calm this guy down? And
yeah, Chris is freaking out.
He's freaking out. This is a great performance from Chris Marquette. He's so frazzled. You can see him shaking. He's all and he's going through all this whole thing. And again, this is another part. I brought this up in an earlier episode. It's amazing how people are acting outside of acting and how hard it is. And this is a big theme of the next episode too, but he obviously tells the truth when he tells Barry, I told my wife I'm going to the gym, because of the way he says it. He's like, I told my wife I was going to the gym. Like, why would I tell her that? And all this. And then later when he realizes that this is the best Bill Hader's ever been right here.
Oh, sure.
Cause Chris says, I'll just turn myself in. And I won't tell anybody. And he's like, we got the Facebook connection. They're going to find me out and all that. And he's just like, why did you say that? And he's like, well, why did you say that? Yeah. And it's probably the most emotionally raw we've seen his character.
Oh, for sure. Throughout the whole last half of this episode. If we're going to dive into that scene, we should dive into that scene. That scene is one of the most organically grown scenes I think I've experienced in this series, right? Because I believe at least that Barry goes into that purely with no ill intent whatsoever. I think he goes in there just to calm him down and be like, I can contain this situation. I don't think he has any clue whatsoever that it's going to go sideways, because he's literally just like, man, let's lay low. Let's, he's not even really trying to connect with him. He's just talking with him, right? And it escalates only because Chris keeps escalating, right? And Barry's just reacting to it. And you can almost see he's got that great, crease in the middle of his forehead. You can almost see that, increasing throughout the thing where he's like, and at one point, I swear to God, the camera pans to him and he looks exactly like Clint Eastwood. And he's got a great Clint Eastwood impression anyway. But then he's got the moment where why did you say that moment? Well, and it's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I think he, in the back of his head, he had the idea that he may have to do something. And I wonder how much he would have thought about that, since, with Taylor, he didn't. He had the chance to take him out, and he didn't do it, and that just fucks things up more. So now he's in the position where he's going to have to do this. He may have to do something to Chris.
You think
and
he had the guy?
I think he knows there's a chance, because I think he's had to do this before, where there's been a loose end and he had to take it out.
Oh, I
think there's a chance. There's no way he went into that not thinking that, we're going to go way off here to the side where I could do something.
I think this is entirely new to him. I think this is the first actual, if you wanted to draw moral lines about who he's killing and everything, this is his first actual murder. His first,
I'm not saying that he has I could buy the idea that he's only killed bad guys before and now he has to do this thing terrible. But I think in the back of his mind, he's thinking there's a chance he may have.
Well,
he's prepared for it.
Brings the gun.
For it. That's what I'm saying. He's prepared for it. I'm thinking he knows about the idea of tying up loose ends, but it was probably with a lot of the terrible people he's working with before. And this is not that. This is an out-and-out murder, and this is him killing kind of who he wants to be.
Yep.
You know?
It is. He's killing his idealized person for sure. And you're right about the Taylor thing, is that he couldn't bring himself to kill Taylor. Taylor wasn't going to tell anybody. But he didn't realize all the other baggage that Taylor brought with him. And if he just does it, then he's out of this situation.
Yep.
I think
exactly.
Now he's starting a whole chain of events now. The whole thing, by not killing Taylor, now he has to kill Chris, and then it's just it's just a constant thing now with him. But yeah, I don't think I ever got to that point that, he says he went to the gym, and then later he starts saying, well, I told my wife I was with you.
Right.
And it's so phony, and it's so, it's a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And it just, again, I love that whole, I don't know if the show is, doing this on purpose, but the fact that it's hard to act anywhere and how much it affects you, wherever you are, keeps becoming a theme of this show.
Did you think, on your first watch of this, did you think they were going to go there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
did?
did.
It's weird because no other show, I think in any other show you would say, nah, there's a line there. But the show at this point has almost primed you to expect, like, oh my God, he's going to fucking do this.
Yeah.
And it's the worst thing ever, right?
That's one of the worst scenes, like, emotionally, that I've ever had in a TV show. Just sitting there, just like, oh hell! First time I saw it, I had to pause it. It was like, shit.
Yeah.
I gotta sit on this for a second because I can't go on me as a viewer watching it at home.
Well,
and the way that they, well, go ahead.
Well, speaking of Breaking Bad, it reminds you of the, and we don't want to spoil that, I guess, but it reminds you of the Walter White scene in the bedroom with
Jane.
Jesse and Jane. It reminds you of that bedroom scene there.
Or with Jesse and Gail, right?
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah.
You have cases of just like the show is, you're like, okay, I'm following along with this character, and this character is, he sold some meth, no big deal. Okay, some bad guys got killed and whatever, and then as things happen where, it messes that life up a little bit, you have to start making decisions on people who are innocent, so like, that's what that scene reminded me of too. It's this whole episode's very Breaking Bad-ish.
Yeah,
it is.
At the end of the scene, I just thought it was so incredibly dramatic to have that car drive up. And Chris has realized how badly he's fucked up, and that he is in a car with a fucking murderer. And he, like, I'm just seeing there saying to Chris, run. This is your chance. There's a car here. Maybe he won't kill you with this other person that is up.
Yeah, because he's clearly waiting, right?
Yeah, he's waiting, and you realize that, and you're not sure if Chris realizes that because a million things are going through Chris's head right now, and he's not thinking straight. He's just trying to get out of this. And you at home are waiting for this to happen, and then the car drives off and he shoots him, and it's just miserable. And then he just walks off.
Yeah.
And he catches an Uber. Yeah.
The editing on this show is incredible.
Yes.
Just the way and we haven't gotten into it a bunch on the other episodes and everything. That one episode where Cousineau is trying to get Barry into the right place on stage and everything. Just the way they cut, and then they show him turn to Barry and all that. It matters where you cut. It matters what action that you're cutting on and what action you show after that, because there's a sort of a symphony that you're playing here. This is why I don't like action scenes in movies these days.
Yeah.
This one, here is like, he's like, no. And then you see the gun and then it cuts out to the thing and it's instant. And it's just incredible how that's edited. And it's something that in a lesser show they'd mess up somehow.
Yeah, it would. And the kind of postscript to it is they go back to the car from the back seat and they see that he's put it in his hand.
Yeah.
Essentially,
making it suicide.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of yada yadaing, his fingerprints are all over it and everything.
Well, you talked about the editing. The editing, I think, before the shot is really good because you're in the car and you are in the car with them and getting that sense of like almost claustrophobia or something where the walls are closing in. So that's an extra point. But,
extra point, Barry.
Extra point there. All right, but the investigation it's pretty. We have several scenes with them.
Yeah.
As we go.
Okay. Here's my broad point about this that I think. It's almost like Barry's not even trying to avoid the police. The only thing he really does is do the alibi thing and meet, in the interview with Moss, right? And Loach. Otherwise, this breaks, like the investigation breaks perfectly for him, right? Like everything, they're not even close.
This leads to maybe one of the funniest scenes in the entire series is when that cop comes up and starts talking about. Is that in the next one too? But when the cop comes up and starts talking about what happened and who was behind it and all that. Where they have they've solved the case.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's the last one. Yeah, that's the next episode.
It's in the next episode, but that's
that's fucking great.
Fucking amazing. I can't wait to start talking about that scene. But going back to this phone call, you were about to say something.
Well, I was going to say that the first time we see them is with the they've tapped the phone call between Cristobal and Goran, and they're talking. Back to the self-help books. I just had to mention that they talked for 10 minutes about self-help books.
Yes.
And it's like, we'll just skip over that part. And they're all into it.
And Loach says something to the effect of, well, in summary, don't worry about going to get help. Everybody needs help sometimes. And when Moss hears military on this, she's like, okay, this is the guy that I've been sort of focused on. And at least my subconscious has been telling me is something wrong about this, something off about this guy. And again, about the acting, man, even when he's like perfect, there's something off. She knows what the bullshit is. Yeah. We're going to see even more of that in that next episode. But so she's like ready to investigate him. And
she even does a Facebook foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So she Googles she does Barry Bergman, and she's like, what the fuck doesn't have a Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the investigation continues into Taylor's apartment, right?
Yes.
And then this is where I find myself going like, I could see this happening. It's not like it's not unbelievable or anything like that, but it's like everything is breaking perfectly. The only shred of an investigation that would lead back to Barry is Janice's intuition. That's it.
Yeah.
Because everything is tied up perfectly. He's got the other half of the money. He was the one found in there. He's linked up to Ryan because of the fucking book and the thing, which is another little tidbit that they dropped when he took it out to put the money in, right? So, like, everything just works out perfectly. And it needs to. Like, the story is not the investigation into Barry's malfeasance into this, even though he's the one creating all this havoc. It just, they have a narrative that ties up, that's untrue, obviously, but ties up perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
It really is. And I just love all of those guys. Those were the two scenes, the detectives, right? They found him, and then
we need to get back to him in the Uber.
Yeah, because he goes and he gets the Uber. He's there in the back seat, and he has this great dream sequence. I had said in the last podcast I thought the dream sequences were done, but they're not done. They he's no longer dreaming of this wonderful, perfect life with Sally. Now he has this daydream of Shakespeare of
Yeah.
him doing this, like this.
He's like doing a Monty Python character.
Yes.
That queen is dead.
Yeah.
And everyone in the audience is wearing tuxedos and all these things. He's like imagining this wonderful Shakespeare thing that's about to happen because he's never really been on stage in a show like this.
Yeah.
And that would be the way he envisioned it would be perfectly fine given the setting.
Yeah.
Like it's that would work for Barry, sure. And so yes, he comes back and he is devastated. And
this is where he really Bill Hader himself just shows off a ridiculous. So you've never seen anything like this. From this
Well,
guy.
you see at the end of the Uber, at the end of the dream sequence, he has a quick flash to him shooting Chris. And you're like, this is messing with him right there. And then he gets there, he arrives late, he puts on this costume, he's not in a good place at all, and he starts having this mental breakdown off to the side of the stage while she is on stage doing in this kind of weird faux British accent.
Yeah, and then she's got an agent that she's called who's watching, and he is disinterested. He's on his phone.
And I love they keep cutting to Gene, who's just like, shit.
Yeah.
This
But
isn't going well.
Gene is cheerleading. I love it. Every
Yeah.
bit about it. He's like, I'm okay. Here's my guys. Everybody give them an applause.
And everybody sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
my favorite line of this episode is where the lady comes out to introduce the review and everything. She mentions Ryan, and she's like, all the proceeds are going to the fight against violence.
Yeah.
And you hear this one woman going, what?
yeah.
And he's like, yes.
Yes, great.
And you have the one guy, the Germain guy comes out, and he's Hamlet, and he gets into 2 words, and he's like, oh, I fucked that line up. I was like, I'm gonna go back and start again, Coos. And Gene's like, oh my god.
But Gene's whole thing, his instructions, which is the title of the episode, is loud, fast, and keep going.
Yeah.
He comes out and he's like quiet, he's done, and he stops. He's like, oh my god, he's terrible.
Yeah. So while Sally does this totally just listless Macbeth, he's envisioning the call that Chris's wife is getting, and
Brilliant.
all this stuff, and it keeps, and another great editing flash thing going on here. And I think it also ties back to the whole Ryan thing too, because he had never run into people's families before, and now this is,
now
he can actually
imagine a family. Yeah, he can imagine what's happening, and their whole life just going up, just going away.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's obviously going nuts. And then another small editing thing that just killed me is the very last thing that he's daydreaming goes back to her answering the phone again.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, and I'm not totally sure how, it's like on some subconscious level or something, that just punched me right in the gut. Like it's like he's going to just have to relive this forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just going to start. Here it is. Okay, now we're doing it again. Now you have to relive it again. And that's when he really, truly breaks. And Sally gives, says her last line. So it's his cue to come on.
Yeah.
Which takes forever. And
yes,
it's another moment where you're like, where are they going to go with this? Like, is he going to ghost her? Is he going to nail this? Is it going to be, further down the spiral? And he's got a very, very convincing, just devastated face when he comes out there to deliver, you could read into some subtext about the queen is dead, meaning that, the character is dead and all that stuff. But, it's really a means to an end. It's a facilitator for Sally to have her moment that she's always been wanting. And she fucking nails it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does. She drops the damn accent, and she goes, and the guy from Gersh, puts down his phone and pays attention, and all goes well.
And she's
for her.
objectively good in that, right? Like, she's
really
she's
outstanding in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the takeaway that I had from all of that, because she's just sort of almost realizing how to do this character while she's up there on the stage, and it's pretty brilliant. I think this is that her performance in the last 2 episodes is some of the hardest stuff to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could. This is one of the parts of the podcast where I wish I could just show a scene.
Oh yeah,
when she gets the number from that Gersh guy. And she's just finished talking to him, and Barry's up on the stage, and she turns and she smiles, and then she's like, she does this little turn, and she's not doing a turn because she's doing a turn. She's doing it because she doesn't know whether to go toward that way or this way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she does a little turn, and she just does this whole like, that was amazing, Barry, blah, blah, blah. And then she just goes into this other little thing, and then she goes into this other little thing, and just all these different emotions just keep throwing. Like, it's crazy how good it is. I don't know how many takes it took, but that is an insane acting performance.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
She's great. And then she says, Barry, you're an actor. You're a real actor. And just the idea of, and then she also says, whatever you did, that's your process now.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Which just cracks me up. And again, we see this dynamic with Barry. When people think he's a great actor is when he's not acting at all.
Yeah.
When he is real and miserable or whatever. So I love the idea of that's your process now.
Yeah.
It is. You said something.
Yeah.
You think that he's going to be reliving this over and over and over again. I think that, and you may be right. You're probably right. But it's weird. After he gets done with the freak out where he breaks the glass and all that stuff, he comes back in and everybody's celebrating in their costumes and everything, even though they all sucked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he has this smile and almost looks like relief. And I think at that point, I think in a perverse way, he thinks it's worth it. He thinks like, this is my family now, and then it's further like crammed in there by Sally giving him validation, saying that you're an actor now, and it pans to him on the stage.
Yeah, I definitely think that, yes, had the acting not gone well, then he would still be reliving this over and over and over again. Yeah, I agree with you on this, especially considering the next episode where he's in complete delusion about the way everything's going on. That scene where he breaks the glass, by the way, is another Gene Cousineau moment. Because he's like, Barry, I've never seen you get to a place like this before. And then he's like, and smashes the glass. He's like, I can see you're still in that place. So this is a process. So I'm going to get out of here.
He actually, before he even hits that glass, he's like, I do have some notes, though.
Yeah, he does have some notes.
This is a great episode. This was written by Elizabeth Sarnoff, who wrote a bunch of Lost episodes and has done other TV and things like that. Directed by Alec Berg, so it's kind of bringing things back together with the OG crew getting back.
Yeah. I believe this is on the IMDb, this is the highest rated episode of this season.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, and it is time. Ooh, no, there's one episode that is in the second season, and you know which one it is.
Yeah, I do.
That is the pinnacle of the season, the series so far. But this one of this season is the top rated on the IMDb.
It's amazing.
Well deserve it too. So
I think that it's my favorite episode. I think of the entire first season. It was just fantastic. It took you to a really dark place, and then and he kind of comes out of it. Like you said earlier, it is worth it to him because of what he had with this, and that dynamic and that setup to where this series is going to go there, and they're still going to try to get him out of this.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts about this episode?
My conscience is clear.
Yeah. I think so. Great.
Unlike Barry.
Yeah. It's indeed. Well, that's episode 7, guys. Great episode. One of the best of the series, and definitely of the season. All right. Where can people talk about this episode?
Go to Twitter. Get thee to the tweet box. And
Now Starting.
And go to @NowStarting to communicate directly with Mike. You can go to SoundCloud, just search for Starting Now, a Barry podcast, or search for Cinemasins. It'll come up. You can interact with us there. Leave your comments, download all that stuff. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a review if you want to. We've got a lot of places that you can contact us.
All right. Awesome. Well, that'll do it for episode 7. It's Chris Atkinson, Barrett Sher, and Mike Hester. See you next time.